Okay. So today, what essentially we are going to cover today is everything about establishing how do organizations establish individual equity. What kind of equities did we cover? Just to get a feel in our session. I'm using this word equity. I hope you know equity means ultimately how do you bring in objectivity, fairness in the organization, right? And
Yeah.
fairness in about what? About paying people. And paying people, it's such an important thing, right? For an organization. Okay. So when I say individual equity today, what kind of equities did we do in our earlier sessions?
Internal equity.
Yes, Mitali. And what else?
External equality also we need to follow.
Yes, absolutely. So when we actually started with an equity theory, we talked about, at least we just talked about three equities: internal equity, external equity, and individual equity. So when we talked about internal equity, what was it? We said, hey, how do we pay people in the organization in relation to the other jobs, right? So it is in relation to the other job. Are we paying them? Is there equity? Then when we talked about external equity, what did we say? When we are comparing with a similar jobs in the organization, in the market, huh? How are we paying? Now, individual equity is all about two people, two individuals doing the same job within the same organization. Is there a pay differential? Yes, if it is there, why? Say, for example, if Abhijit and Seema are two individuals working in a same job as an HR manager with the same JD, but Abhijit gets a little more than Seema. They should be the pay differential between Abhijit and Seema, huh, is 10% or 20%. Then Seema would like to know why is he getting more, right? Why is this pay differential? So we would be looking at some of these things. So typically, what so when we talk about individual equity, we said, what is it? We talked about, if you recall, output versus input, comparing it with the other role, right? Did we do that? I hope you recall.
Yeah, like the
Equity
even
theory.
different compensation factors.
No, we looked at job evaluation of equity theory. We said we compare
Mhm.
ourselves. How do we compare? What is that we input and what is that I'm getting? And then I compare it with the comparator. Didn't I hope you remember that? Abhijit, you
Mhm.
remember that? Yeah? Yes. And when we talk about external equity, what we were talking about, because of the market forces, the supply demand, right? Uh, because these are the things because of which there are variations in the salaries. Now, when we talk about individual equity, I will just ask you a question. What are some of the reasons for which I gave you an example? Seema and Abhijit are there. Abhijit could get more than Seema just out of your own
Performance.
experience. Huh?
Performance.
Yep, yep. Very good performance. Yes. Anything else? Excellent.
Experience. Year of experience.
Because Abhijit is a better performer, so I need to give him more. Okay. Then what else?
Year of experience.
So
There is a
absolutely,
differential.
you are absolutely there. Seniority. In terms of tenuity, it could be, right? As he said, it could be also because of, performance, a merit pay for performance incentive plans, or maybe Abhijit has certain HR certifications like analytics certification or compensation certification. So he's getting additional increments, right? Or maybe there are certain skills he has, so skill-based compensation system, and therefore, when we talk about individual equity, all that we do mostly is what? If this is the compensation system, please be very, very clear now because this is your last session. Base pay is done by what? I told you also, I'm just checking out. How do we, account for base pay, or how do we evaluate, and what is that we do to arrive at base pay? Base pay is essentially the worth of the job. How much should I pay? Fixed pay, guaranteed pay. What do we do? Through, oh my God, through job evaluations, right?
Yeah.
Job evaluation.
Through job evaluations. Everything we do to ensure that there is parity, that there is equity, when two individuals are doing, we are going to do a lot about all about variable pay. All about variable pay. So in my first session, in fact, I will talk about the performance because that's the focus. I'll talk about it little later. I talked about if two individuals are working as call center employees, but one is working at night and the other is working in the daytime, you give something because he's working, a night shift, which is a hardship. So you give him a hardship allowance, right? So one category of what is that? It's also variable pay, no? Because it is not consistent. It is contingent on the hardship he is. The moment he shifted to a daytime, that will be withdrawn. Got it? Hardship. Can you give me quick examples of hardship allowances, please? Quick.
Night
Let me
shift.
Night
Yeah,
allowance.
I already spoke about it. Then.
Place of posting at the remote location.
Remote location allowance.
Yeah. You can actually have a remote location. Then.
Hazard allowance. Working in some
Yes.
factory site.
Remote. Then you can also have hazardous. Okay. So you understand what it is. All right. Now, we also talked about what is it called? Merit pay for extra skills. Did we talk about it? We said, hey, they could be what? Vertical. They could all be horizontal. Vertical, I could actually call it by another name called upskilling. And horizontal, I could also call it as cross-skilling. Okay. So in every organization, say Abhijit is working as an HR manager, even Seema is working as an HR manager, but Abhijit comes with a certification in HR analytics. He comes with a certification in compensation benefits. So my organization says, hey, more the certifications, I'm also going to incentivize them for these two certifications. Are you with me? Okay. So for skills, cross-skilling, upskilling, to ensure that people actually upskill themselves. I show them the career path. So I will say, hey, if you actually do this certification in the next 3 years or 5 years, you can become assistant general manager, because I want to make you AGM for HR operations. And for AGM HR operations, these are some of the things which are very important. In the next 3 to 5 years, if you can do the certification, you will also get the increment for those certifications, but you will also be promoted. So I'm upskilling you. Okay. So that's another kind of a variable. We're going to do a lot about it. Then there is another one which we talked about is hot skill or market linked retention. Do you remember anything about it? Quickly, anyone who remembers? I said yes.
Any specific or any niche skills which is not available in the market. So if we have those skills, then we would compensate such employees with some extra allowance for retention.
That is there, but here, Abhijit, when I'm talking about hot skill or a market linked to retention bonus, it may not be a niche. But suddenly what happened, there are many startups which have come up and they're wanting cloud computing. It may not be a niche skill. Now suddenly the talent, pools have shrunk because of the huge demand. So for some time, all people will try to resign and get into those organizations where they're giving higher salary. So I need to become cognizant of the fact that there is a sudden kind of scarcity. There's a sudden demand for these skills. So it's a supply demand question. So for 2 years or 3 years, depending on, I will say, hey, all these employees who have this particular skill, I will be giving them what is it? A hot skill, or what is it called? A market linked retention incentive. Why do I not factor it into a fixed salary? Because the moment again you have the supply increases, I cannot withdraw this amount. But if it is a separate bonus or a separate allowance, I can withdraw it. Got it? Okay. So typically what happens, what we are look at, the last one is a classic example. What is that? It is all about what? Performance, like rightly stated by Dhruva. Say for example, Abhijit is want to work hard, stretch himself and work very hard. But Seema performs. But for both of them, I pay the same salary. Abhijit, for 2 months, he'll work hard. 3 months. Hey, what's the point? I'm really working hard. Huh? I'm achieving so many targets, but I'm not rewarded. So I'll start looking for another job. I'll not be able to, or I will not work. I'll also become like Seema then. Sorry, Seema. Huh? So no motivation. So work more, get more. So by introducing this concept of variable pay, what happens to organizations? I do not have to pay more wage cost because you are also producing more. So you are also getting paid out of it. Mita, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So let us look at, so essentially, what did I say? Essentially, what is the learning from this when I was sharing this? Essentially, what do organizations do? How do they establish individual equity? By having what? Variable pay plans. Simple. How do you establish individual equity? By establishing
Establishing
variable pay plans. Because when two individuals are working, all right, and if one is working more hard, or if one skill is very important, or if one has more certifications, so you have categorized and you are giving variable pay plan. Now, when we are also talking about variable pay plans, one of the criteria is what? For performance. For performance. So when I'm talking about performance, it can be at an individual level. It can be at a team level. It can be at an organization level. It can be at a location level. So, what are some of the names, some of the schemes which come to your mind at an individual level? Don't look at my slides. Just tell me. Quick. Seema, what do
For an
you
individual,
what do you
for an
give in
in-
your organization at an individual level? What are some of the schemes you have, or what are some of the bonuses you give for an individual contributor?
so we have something called as a variable performance pay, which is more
Okay.
to do
Link
with the
bonus.
organization performance and individual performance.
Right,
And for the
right.
sales team, they're not a part of the this
Commission.
performance team. They are for the commissions based on the sales target that they achieve, which is on a quarterly
Right.
basis.
Right. Anybody else? Yes, Dhruva?
retention pay,
Okay, retention
which
pay.
is directly depending on in our organization, directly depending on the performance.
Okay, retention pay. All right. Then anybody
We
else,
have
Abhijit?
we
Yeah.
have sales incentive program for the sales team. So quarterly
Sales incentive programs. Excellent. It could be monthly, it could be quarterly, it could be half yearly. What about Nitin? Nitin, what kind of variable pay plan at an individual level you have?
Ma'am, we have night allowances and we also have meal. I don't know whether that counts or not, but for the food, so extras and all that, that has also been given. And
Night allowance is a hardship allowance. Okay. So right now we are actually talking about a performance. Okay. We are talking about what? Performance. Right. So when you are talking about performance, you can talk about a piece rate. Typically, this kind of a thing exists in manufacturing organizations. Production. So if you are making 100 units, 100 pieces, okay? So it could be a union agreement, etc. Okay, fine, you have to make, that is the threshold, 100. Anything over and above, you get per piece so much of money, right? You know that, right? In manufacturing organizations, they have this piece rate method. Okay.
So the OT covers like overtime in performance.
Yeah. Then you also have the so many hours you need to work. Anything over and above you are working, it's called overtime. Then merit pay. What is that merit pay I talked about? You could have cross skills. We'll talk a little more about the skill based. So merit pay in terms of what you could be talking about. One is your, rating scale, your performance. So you have exceeded, or it's been average. So depending on your rating, you get certain amount of bonus, performance bonus. We talked about it, sales commissions, right? So all this is for individual contribution. You can also have it at an organization level. So tell me some of the things you have at an organization level, which are very common. Quick.
Employee stock option plan one.
Employee?
Stock option plan.
Yeah. Yes, we will come to the stock option plan. I will explain to you. Yeah. But generally for an organization, that is individual level stock options. But here at an organization level, if an organization has performed, then what happens? You get something called profit sharing. At the end of it, you get some bonus, right?
Oh,
You heard of
Yes.
profit sharing?
yes.
That
Yes.
this organization has made so much of profit. So, okay, 10%, 15% of it is shared with the employees. Then, like Dhruva was talking about, employee stock option plan. ESOP. I will just park that because I want to elaborately explain that to you. Okay, I will explain that to you, ESOPs. Very common, gain sharing. Has anybody heard of gain sharing? Quick.
No.
No. Any difference between profit sharing and gain sharing?
Profit sharing is
No
based
idea.
on company's profitability or performance, and gain sharing may be on team or at functional level. Whether that
You're
particular
almost close there. Somebody else was prompting something. Yeah, tell me. Somebody else was talking about it. You are absolutely right there. When we say profit sharing, the accounts have to be balanced, books have to be balanced, and then you get certain profits, and then you're sharing the profits. But here, that happens at the end of the year, the payout after everything's done. Gain sharing can happen month on month, quarterly, half yearly, because this is directly related to the performance of that team, the performance of location, or the performance of that plan. Essentially, why do you have these gain sharing plans in organizations? Because they want everybody to collaborate, because they feel certain times that if a unit has to perform or increase its productivity, it's very important that all its employees within that unit have to come together, cooperate, collaborate to ensure that the increase in performance or productivity. So to increase that productivity, what they will say, hey, they will give them a cutoff based on 3 or 4 years of data. They'll say, hey, this is the threshold. Now, if you increase it more than this, you will get certain gain sharing. You'll get some amount of sharing out of this. Okay. So it is operational in nature, not at the end of it. So what will happen, do you think?
We have this project completion bonus, which is
Hmm.
resembled to this gain sharing.
Almost like gain sharing. Yeah. But this word is used mostly in manufacturing organization to ensure that the entire location or the unit, they collaborate together and achieve that target which is set for their unit. Okay. So, special, like say, for example, think that, every time you are in a manufacturing organization, you are manufacturing a car, and there's a wastage of say 5,000 rupees or $5,000 for every vehicle. Now normally what happens when you're manufacturing a vehicle, so everybody comes together, no? Have you seen the line? manufacturing line. It is not that just one person, Dubai is manufacturing or Abhijit. So everybody come together because there are a lot of activities which are in collaboration. Now, they have noticed that by doing so, they are able to reduce the waste by $3,000. That means they can actually save $2,000 per car. Say, for example, they are manufacturing 50 cars. So how much do you think they can actually then save? One car, $2,000. So for 50 cars, how much will they save? Any mathematician here? 50 into 2? Huh?
1 lakh.
Yeah.
100,000.
So 50 into 2 is how much? 1 lakh. So don't you think that now they want to motivate them to do it? So what they'll say, hey, if you save so much, maybe 50% of it, we will be giving it to you. Likewise, if you are reducing, say there's a process which takes a total amount of the process takes about 5,000 hours, maybe you are reducing it by 1,000 hours. So again, there is an efficiency there. So therefore, you are sharing it with the people. So what happens? It is an operational metric. That means they will give certain kind of a metrics or what I call it as KPIs to reduce wastage, maybe to reduce costs, maybe, or because here there is because of the direct contribution of the employees, they are able to bring about efficiencies. Are you seeing that? You can see directly. It is not indirect like profits. It's at end of the year, everything happens, books have to be accounted for. No, here the output is directly what? In control of these employees. Okay. I'll talk about stock options when I talked about all this, right? No? Talked about piecework, standard, merit base, sales commissions. I talked about gain sharing, team bonuses, profit sharing. Anybody who wants further clarification? Profit sharing? Yes, no?
Madam,
Everybody
profit sharing, if an organization want to share the profit to the employees, in that respect, whether the performance, individual performance of the rating can also be a yardstick, or it is given to across all the employees.
No. When they are doing profit sharing, typically it's a percentage of the base salary.
Okay.
When you are giving merit pay annual increment, it is what? Directly in relation with your rating of your performance.
Correct. Okay.
Profit sharing is equated. Basically, it is a certain
So
percentage.
you have made profits to certain percentage on the basis of your base salary at every level. It is given. You are in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. So across the organization, they will calculate certain percentages and give it. Okay.
Is gain sharing linked to performance?
Gain sharing is directly linked to performance.
Yes, because it is team effort.
There are predetermined criteria there in terms of wastage or in terms of cost, etc. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. It is operational in nature.
Operational.
Like a project. If all of you complete this project in 2 months' time, like Dhruva is in L&T. Say, for
L&T,
example, a construction site, a project has to be completed. Then what will happen? Everybody has to, so there's a timeline to it. So everybody is given a project allowance.
Understood.
Now, when we talk about skill-based, I talked to you, right? I said horizontal skills. No? I spoke about vertical, higher level skills. That is career growth skills, depth skills. What are depth skills? Specialist skills. Say, what are some of the specialist skills in HR? Quick.
Analytics.
Analytics,
AI.
Yeah, analytics.
AI, could
Power
be
BI,
analytics.
Power
You
BI.
could have HRBP certifications, right? So these are all specialist skills. Compensation expert. Okay, staffing expert.
The expert.
Counseling, it's a special skill, no? Counseling is not a generic skill. Well, I'm just wanting to know, how do organizations benefit when they are promoting these skill-based compensation programs? Don't go through this entire thing, how it's very easy. But my main question to you is that she's not even talking today. So, how do organizations benefit when they're having skill-based programs? Quick.
Organization encourages the meritocracy across the level. That is the reason
Okay.
No, the
it is
thing,
merit based.
That's one point. I will take that point. Okay. But what is the, in terms of cost, how are they going to benefit? Think, Seema, think, very relevant for a startup. Nitin, think about it.
A chunk of the compensation is under the discretion of the management and variable. So if the
Okay,
performance
no,
drops
no.
down, or if the certain
No, no, my
circumstances is
question
not
was
there,
very, Dhruva, my question was very, very clear. How do organizations get the benefit when they are promoting skill-based programs like upskilling, cross-skilling?
okay.
Ma'am, talent retention
could-
is more in these kind of programs.
Rightly stated, organizations get talent because retention of talent, because I mean employees are motivated to work because they get extra. Now let me also tell you.
ma'am,
Oh,
I think if they give the opportunities to such kind of employees internally, it will be helpful for, in future succession. And in that case, to give the increment, it is like between 15-20%. But if they hire from the outside, then the cost will be higher.
you are there almost, but yes, I'll put it this way. Let me tell you. I'll give you an example. Say in a manufacturing organization, I am taking a welder. You know welder, right? In a manufacturing organization. So when he comes on board, I will also give him this order saying that if you are certified in fitter, and also get certified by our training department, then you will get a additional increment.
Yeah,
Understood? Then what happens? He gets certified and is getting the additional increment. Now you find that the fitters are very expensive in the market. Now I'm creating a talent pipeline. I'm taking at a low cost a welder and then motivating him to do certifications, and I'm creating what, a basket of skills, right? Now, if there is a turnover of employees, I have readily available talent who can be shifted. So it is not going to disrupt my work. Be in terms of cost, like Mitali was saying, if I want a welder, a fitter, I have to buy at a higher cost. Whereas what will I do? I'll take more welders, then get them to actually get certifications. And I will say, hey, you get into that fitter jobs. I will again take welders. So I'm creating a talent pipeline wherein I'm not actually buying from the market at a higher cost. And at the same time, I'm motivating my people, and I'm also motivating my welder who can see a career path, saying that, hey, I'm actually, able to go up to a higher level here. So retention is happening, attracting, retention, and motivating. And at the same time, also development is happening to him. Are you seeing this? In lot many IT organizations also, if you have noticed, as I said, organization is trying to constantly build talent pipelines. When I said talent pipeline means what? What is pipeline?
The
You have a
prospective
tap in
candidates.
your house. You have a tap in your house, but there is no pipe which is bringing water. Then even if you open the tap, you won't get water, right? But so just like that, talent pipeline is what? Understanding what are the different kind of skill sets which are required by my organization, which I do through HR planning, and finding it out from the business, what kind of people I need with what kind of skill sets, and then ensuring that they are readily available by building the pipeline, constant pipeline, so that at any point of time, I don't have to go and buy it from the market. Very rare cases I will buy. Are you with me? So in that way, what am I trying to do? I'm keeping my wage cost low. Got it? Everybody? In fact, personally, I have been CHRO for organizations like Tata's, Apollo's, and Sutherland, and we have created always these talent pipelines, whether it was in medical coding, which was a very, very critical skill sets, or whether it was in terms of at that point of time cloud computing. So any niche skills or any kind of skills for which we had to buy from the market, we always cognizant of the fact that constantly we will be requiring 40 to 50% of the skill sets. We try to create a talent pipeline, because if you need 60 to 80% of workforce, and 10 to 20% is always going to attrite, and then all the more reason that you build talent pipelines, which I call it as human capital readiness. Okay, guys, understood? All right. Okay. So this is something you can actually read how to go about. In fact, Seema can do that. Build up skill sets, categories, identifies what are the kind of skills you all need, both in terms of breadth and depth, and then start building talent pipelines. Okay. In that way, you actually save a lot of costs, and you can actually showcase your talent.
Thank you.
So this is all about skills. How do you create a skill set, and how do you monitor constantly? Yes. Now we are coming to the next category called, somebody said, ESOPs. Dhruva said employee stock options. Now let us look at when we are also doing variable pay plans. There are certain incentives, like for example, STI. What are they called? Short-term incentives. First, understand STI, short-term incentives. MTI, what is it called? Mid-term incentives. And LTI, long-term incentives. Why is it called short-term incentives? That means the payment is made either monthly, quarterly, or biannually, everything within the typically annual. So within a year. So that is called a STI. When you talk about midterm, that means usually is about maybe not even 5 years, okay, 3 to 4 years or so, 3 to 5 you can always call it. When it is long term, any duration more than 5 years. Now, what kind of incentives do you can actually think of when you talk about short-term incentives? Quickly, guys. I'm sure
Ma'am,
all of you talked about it all.
I have
Milestone bonus.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Nitin or somebody else. Yeah. Tell me,
so
please.
I
Milestone
wanted to
bonus.
understand this gratuity I'm talking about, which is like when you complete 5 years within an organization, you get gratuity, right? But
Yeah.
does that cover into LTI?
No,
So
No,
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 that
but
is a
that is
long-term
different now.
incentive.
that's
So
statutory.
when we talk about
That
gratuity,
is
we will
part
talk about it,
statutory.
which is a mandatory social security by law.
Correct.
And what is it about? We'll talk about it, gratuity. But it does not come into what is called a long-term incentives. It is a retirement benefit which is mandatory. Got it, Nitin? Huh?
Yes, ma'am. So
And you get it only if you finish 5 years in an organization. And huh?
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. So,
Huh.
another question linked to this only. Uh, so in US, we have 401k, which is a pension plan I'm talking about, or
Right.
the stock options that we have.
Right.
There's one more. I forgot about it. I'm so sorry. So three things I was talking. So does that come under, because that is also statutory only, like the pension plan?
Yes.
That
So these are under protection, which is mandatory as per the government regulation 401k, which is a pension plan, which is relevant to US. Likewise, we have a gratuity and a PF, which are all protection for protection benefits, which are mandatory as required by the government, statutory, as per the PF Act, as per the Gratuity Act. Okay.
So, ma'am, in US, stock options are also statutory. Like they have to provide them stocks. Uh,
Yeah, but in India, stocks are not mandatory except for bonus,
okay,
as per the Bonus Act.
right,
Okay.
got it.
Yeah,
Understood.
except for the Bonus Act. Okay. So when we talk about long-term incentive, definitely we are not talking about gratuity, because that is a protection benefit and mandatory and statutory, where the employer does not have a choice. But today, what happens? I just want to tell you about it. That when you talk about a total cost to the company, he will say, "Hey, I'm giving 20 lakhs," right? Today, earlier, that contribution of the employer was not added. Today, when they are showing total cost to the company, they also add what is it? The gratitude part also, and show it. So
Got it.
I will come to that structuring part, and I will definitely bring about a little more clarity on that. Okay.
Sure. Sure.
All right. So we are talking about short-term incentives, which are directly linked to your performance, and typically these are given to whom? Across the organization, also mostly low level, at a low grades, or even at a middle level. Typically low frontline people, low level, where month on month you are getting, for a salesperson he gets his commission. Okay, so these are all paid within India. When we talk about long-term incentives, typically they are what? They are like equity participation. You want to create wealth for your top management. They're typically given to the top management. Like, for example, employee stock option plans. But today, in most of the startups and IT organizations, these stock option plans are also given to across all the levels. Okay. But traditionally, they were only given to top management. What do they mean? Why? First of all, let us question. Why do you want to give, or why do you want to make him a part of that equity, saying that, hey, I'm going to give you employee stock option plan. What is the purpose? Why do you want to give it? Why do you think so? Yeah, anybody?
Because I think higher level managers, they are like act like a think tank, and to retain them for a long time, company think in that way.
One is absolutely the intent is right. You want them to stay for a longer time. And also startups which also are giving employee stock option plans. What is the intent? They want their employees to stay not just for 1 year, 2 years. They want them to stay for a longer time. Okay, because especially you are in an R&D startup, or you are in a technical, you are hiring key people. Now your success, or your failure depends on those people staying for a longer time. You can't achieve just in 1 year. So
That is
longer
the
time.
reason maybe the stock option plan, generally it is spread across 5 years.
So generally, so what happens now when you're saying, when you are offering stock option plan, you are saying, hey, here is it. I'm going to give you a certain number of stocks, okay, and at a price which is lesser than the market. So I'm going to give you a letter, which is also called. Okay, let me just take you to that.
Ma'am, before I lose my thought, I just want to kind of put a question to you right now, because then it might come as a part of your explanation as well. So from the stock perspective, when I kind of understand something which is listed on the stock market, it gives a very clear picture of, the shares you're giving and all that. But some organization, as you rightly said, from the tech startup world, which is more on the funding stage and stuff like that, well, how does that interpret to the long-term incentive plan is what my question is. It could probably cover when you'll talk about it. So I just don't want to lose my thought. That's why I sent the question to you right now.
Sure, very nice. So first I will explain what does it mean, and then I will also tell you the reason for startups to give this, and how does it really impact, and what is really happening in the real world. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, when we talk about stock option, essentially, how does the process work? You are given a letter, which is also called what? A grant letter, because you are an employee who's a top performer, who seems to be doing very good work, and I want you to be retained in this organization. So I'll say, hey, here is an option. Okay, you can buy 500 shares or 1,000 shares at this particular rate, which is definitely at that point of time maybe lesser than what it is being in the market quoted. Okay. And it also will have what that you can actually exercise this option after 3 years. That means this is a piece of letter. You can't do anything about it right now. You can exercise this option only after 3 years. And when you are exercising in that letter, it is also given within how much time you can exercise, whether 50% can be bought in 6 months and after 50% later. So there is something called an exercising option period as well. All this will be written in the letter. But now it's just a piece of letter because the vesting period is say 2 years. It won't be a longer time because then nobody will be motivated. So this guy said, hey, great. If the prices are going to go up, then I'm going to make money. Essentially, the employer wants you to stay in that organization. Retention. This is a retention tool. And that is why they are offering you employee stock option plan. But after 2 years is your vesting period, or maybe after 3 years, then you are wanting to buy. But say, for example, there was a recession and somehow the company hasn't done really well and the shares seem to be at a higher price. The offered rate is at a higher price as in compared to the market rate. Then what happens? Do you have to still buy them? Will you still buy them? Anybody? Yeah? Will you still
think
buy
yes.
the shares? Huh?
Yes.
You'll still buy the shares if they're more than, if the price which is being offered at a price which is higher than the market.
Achha, what exactly is vesting? Can you just explain me once more? I couldn't understand.
Yeah, vesting time means it's just simply a period. Huh? That is, you can exercise or you can use or buy those stocks only after that period. I'm giving you this letter to Dhruva that, hey, you're a great employee. You can buy so much shares. But just a letter, which is a grant letter. But you cannot do it immediately. So that vesting means that you can use it only after 2 years or 3 years. Got it?
And I can buy after 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, it will be mentioned there. That's called the vesting period. That option
Vesting period.
is only after
Option.
certain time frame. Got it? Why do they do that? Because they want you to stay there. And if you leave during the vesting period, then you don't get any benefit. Saying that, oh, I have this letter. No, it's a piece of letter. You can just throw it.
No,
You can
actually,
only
ma'am, actually,
Hmm.
just I want to share the ESOP things. We are having earlier we are having a ESOP plan, which was a certain number of shares are allotted based on the various considerations, performance, and all other, and management grade and all, which is
Right.
spread across certain 4 to 5 years, as you rightly pointed out. And also we are having a bond or a warranty that employee has to offer, that they cannot leave leave the company within those period of vesting or sorry,
that is
or
actually
after the
called the
exercising.
vesting period. Yeah, there is a period.
Yeah,
Okay.
period. And if they leave, they have to purchase the entire lot with the market price.
Right.
They have
Absolutely.
to pay the company to the
So
company.
why is it offered? Because it is offered because you want him to
Retain.
stay in the organization.
Yes.
But if that purpose is defeated, then why will you give him that concession? No?
Yes.
Okay. Now, having said that, I'm coming to CMAs. So SEMA in most of the startup organizations and also in most of the tech organizations, you're offering ESOPs at the lowest level. Okay? Across all levels. Now, what is happening? This is reality. A lot of employees at a low level, they are not finding any great monetary value in terms of when they stay for 1 year, 2 years, because the benefit they look at, if they jump and they're getting a better offer, then they tend to forget about this option because this does not give them so much value as in compared to at that point of time when there is a great opportunity for them to get a higher designation and a higher compensation. Because, they will get the benefit of an ESOP only when they comply with the time frames. Got it?
Mhm.
But why do they give startups? Because they want to attract them with the ESOPs, saying that, hey, guys, you see, if you stay on and if you really work, then because they are not able to pay high salaries at that point of time, it's a startup. So they're giving some amount of equity, saying you are the owners.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's the owner.
Got it? Yeah. But just doing that, but if all your other processes are really bad, then you also have to have certain culture. So startup also has to have great culture building is very, very important. No? Because money is not that what, just the money itself doesn't matter.
True.
Okay. Just what are some of the design considerations of a variable pay plan? Okay. Design consideration means how do I design a variable pay plan? Any idea? What could be? How do you go about? First and
Ma'am.
the foremost intent thing is you need to have what? Very
Objective.
clear about intent. What does it mean? Intent means
Objective.
goal,
The purpose,
objective.
yeah.
Huh? Why do you want to have this variable pay? Right? Because unless and until there is something called begin with the end in mind. If I don't know what is the end objective, if I'm not clear about it, then the process is not very clear. So intent is very important. Intent not only from what? You have to have a clarity on from the functional aspect, also from the HR aspect. Why am I having, say for example, I'm having a sales variable pay plan. What could be my functional intent? Quick.
To increase the sales,
Increase what?
sales,
Increase?
revenue, company revenue.
Right. Increase revenue, no?
Yeah.
What could be from the HR perspective?
Retention.
To motivate the employee to retain.
Absolutely motivate, right? And even retention if he is getting,
Yeah.
So I have to be very, very clear about, hey, from the functional aspect, what is it? What are the various things? Maybe if I go a little deeper, I could say, how are they selling? It could be cross-selling sometimes, right? It could be upselling sometimes, no? Okay. And if I go further, I can also do from the HR perspective, from the HR point of view, it could be team building, whether everybody is working as a team. I could also talk about, I'm sorry, I could also talk about
Competency
what?
building. Competency
Huh?
building.
From the HR, yes, competency building. I could also talk about innovation, creativity, no, depending on the situation. Depending on the situation, what are the various things which are required to enhance performance? Got it? It could be also simple things like what? Regularity means not that too much of absenteeism. No? It could also be what? Integrity. Okay. So that is the intent. Next comes what we are talking about is, hey, for eligibility, who are the people? In an organization, you have an organizational structure. You will have people like what? Level 1 people, level 2, middle managers, top management, senior managers, everybody. Who are the people who are going to be eligible for this pay plan? Say, for example, a sales commission plan is there. Who will be the people who will be there? Sales team?
Frontline sales
Working to
team.
sales
Sales
team,
guys.
yeah.
Sales
No?
team.
also maybe sales manager. No?
Mm.
Say if it is a retail chain or something, it can also have a store manager. No? It can also have, if I'm talking about, say, for example, in a retail, maybe there is a guy who's taking care of the merchandise, warehouse guy. No? Say Mark and Spencer. Everybody knows Mark and Spencer, right? Huh? So they can be a warehouse guy, warehouse manager. It can also be a admin guy. Huh? So who are the people who are eligible? Is it very important to know that for whom are we making? Who are the people who are eligible? Next, what we are talking about is participation. When I say participation, what does it mean? Means what is the percentage of their base salary which will be variable pay? What is it? Percentage of base salary, which is, I'll just put as variable pay. Okay. For example, if you remember my first session, I said there is something called performance elasticity. Now, a sales guy, yeah, Nitin.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I interrupted, ma'am.
Mhm.
So we exactly are talking about like what will be the percentage of base pay and what is the percentage of variable, how we're going to distribute that. That's what we are going to talk about, right?
Right. Right. Because if I'm going to have a high percentage of variable pay for HR people, where they're actually indirectly contributing to the output, then it's not justified. No, even if they stretch, it's not going to really. I can't have a 40% variable pay for an HR person
Yes.
because the job as such has no elasticity to perform. Whereas if I say a sales guy, the more he will sell, the more revenue he can make. So because there is that possibility, I have to have a higher percentage of what? Variable pay. That means I can have even 30%, 30%, or even what? 40%. If I give less percentage of variable pay to a sales guy, and he is a guy who can really sell, he'll say, hey, I can really sell and make more money, but the percentage of variable pay is so low that it constricts me from making more money. Are you getting me that point? Are you getting that point? Yes or no, guys? Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
So therefore, in every organization, say for example, the operation guys, the production guys, no? So if I'm going to increase my percentage of variable pay there, so most of the organizations, what they will have, high percentage of their base salary as VP, a variable pay for people who can actually sell more, produce more. But for example, for my sales team, maybe I'll have a 30%, 40%. Whereas for my warehouse guy, who's only looking after merchandise, ensuring that product is there, I can have, say, about just about 10% to 15%. Got it? Huh? Or if there is a guy
Because the job elasticity is very low.
yeah, is there a watch boy? Means that boy who takes care of water, shutting the stores. Can I have a high variable pay here? Yes or no? I can't, no? I must have at least a lump sum amount as an additional bonus or as minimal as a 5% to ensure that he actually collaborates with the others. So have you understood what I meant by participation?
Yes, ma'am.
But typically for top management, the percentage of variable pay will almost be 40 to 50%. Why? Because the top management has the circle of, they have a huge circle of influence and control so that they are able to achieve business goals as compared to a lower level guy who's only doing a small job. He has a line of sight, but he's not in control so much. So that he can collaborate, you have certain amount of percentage of variable pay to ensure that, hey, I'm actually, what I do is also goes into the larger picture. I must tell you the small story here. I'm sure everybody knows the story. There were three masons doing the same job. What does the mason do typically? What does the mason do? Quick.
Building,
Guess what does the
carrying the
mason do?
bricks.
Huh? And makes the constructs, right?
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
Okay. So there was this man who went to the mason one and they said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Then the mason, he just said, "Hey, I'm actually constructing a wall for a room." He goes to the second mason and says, "What are you doing?" "I'm constructing a big building." He goes to the third person and he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm actually constructing a big palace." Will there be a significant difference in the kind of work, quality of work in these three masons? Yes, because the way they see that big picture. And that is why in organizations, you are ensuring that across all levels, ensuring that, they have a line of sight. What does it mean, line of sight? What I do, how is it connected to the big picture? Like say, for example, in a manufacturing organization, car, vehicle, he's making, say, small part. He comes every day, makes that part and goes. He will not see any sense of, purpose or anything if he does not know that where this part is actually going, what will happen. But if he knows that this part is going to become a very critical component in the big vehicle where it is, and he knows exactly where, so his focus, his vision, everything will be different. Yes or no? Please tell me. Everybody is
Yes,
quiet. Yeah? It will make a difference, right? In the quality of work? Yeah?
right.
Correct. So this is called participation, irrespective of, even sometimes you may say, like typically, HR people say, we don't have any kind of, direct contribution to operations, revenue, etc. Why should we have the variable pay? We should have 100% base salary, 100% fixed pay. I should not have it, because when it is variable pay, that means I may get only 80%, I may get only 90%. There is no assurance of getting 100% till the time you are doing your work, right? But guaranteed pay is something you're assured of. So most of the support functions will not like a high percentage. But at the same time, when you're designing variable pay plan, you have to ensure that you are not going to give a higher percentage support functions where there is no performance elasticity, where there is no direct contribution as such, but there is an indirect contribution. Okay, so this is called participation. Then, don't you think criteria is very, very important? This is where most of them actually do not bring clarity in organizations. How are you going to evaluate this performance? No, very important. Unless and until the person knows that, hey, piece rate, every piece you will be given this much money, but it has a quality criteria, not that any amount of resources will you take and then create the parts. That so much of rejection is going into. It will have certain kind of a criteria in terms of maybe a material being used, time being used, specifications in terms of quality, etc. And unless and until I give those criteria performance, when you evaluate, and so the person has to be very clear, predetermined. I mean, he should know much before he starts the work. How is my performance going to be evaluated? Unfortunately, in most of the organization, the person who does the job does not have clarity as to how is going to be evaluated. At the end of 9 months, 12 months, then he will get a different rating. I said, but I thought, this is not proper. My boss has not given me the rating. I did my best. What is best? Have you actually?
Madam,
Hmm.
I have a small question. Just
Hmm.
for in the particular management cadre, maybe in the HR,
Hmm.
we generally came across that at the lower end of the hierarchy, the percentage of the variable pay is lesser than those who are in the senior level. The variable
Absolutely.
pay is more.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
The reason is that is it more elastic or the scope of innovation is much more? That is the
No,
reason.
no, because at a lower level, as I mentioned, whether it's HR or even other jobs, the circle of influence, they are only they have to do just the job which involves knowledge, skill, and little bit. But at a higher level, say for example, an HR head,
Hmm.
he has higher responsibility which takes care of achieving a higher results. He has a larger influence, right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if I say my HR associate should have 40% of variable pay, why I can't have that? Because the scope of work is such that it is 90% is within his control.
Yes.
And it is just about knowledge and skill and little bit. So therefore, higher the job you go, you have what? Your what widens up, what broadens up, your ability to achieve business goals is much more, right? So thus the responsibility is higher, and thus your variable pay has to be. Why? Because only then you are motivated to work harder and get more money. Why do you think all top management people are sitting on huge stock options and shares, right?
Yeah.
Make so much of money, bonuses. Okay. So criteria of performance is very, very important. How are you going to what? Evaluate the performance. At the end, payout. What is payout?
How
are
it
you
will
going
be paid? How it will
to
be
pay?
paid?
Paid? Whether you will pay monthly, quarterly, annually, little you will pay monthly, then you want to retain. So will you do it later? So how will you pay out? Okay. For what will you pay out? Will you pay for attracting, motivating, retention, etc.? Now, I want to take you to the small assignment. We can do it. Okay. Now, this is a retail store where they want to increase their market share by 12%. That means they want to increase their sales volumes. All right. What are they selling? They're selling combination of handsets. What are they selling? They're selling combination of handsets. Now, so in order to increase their sales volume, they have to increase footfall. They also have to, production of handsets is being taken by the production team. Here we are only concerned about the sales people who have to generate sales. All right. But there are some very good salespeople who keep, exiting the organization, who are attriting, and so definitely you also need to take care of the attrition. Then they lack customer centricity. They're not very, very, customer sensitive, customer focused. So you need to increase customer sensitivity and the way they are interacting with customers. So this is a little background about a retail store which is selling handsets, combination of handsets. Now there are certain HR challenges here. There is also a functional challenge here. So now you need to design a variable plan, pay plan, okay, pay for performance plan, okay, and this is the background of this organization, which is a retail store. Now, how many salespeople are there? There are 20 salespeople, and you have a sales manager, and you also have an salespeople manager. Salespeople are reporting into sales manager, assistant manager, warehouse who takes care of all the merchandise. That means ensuring that the handsets are there. Under him, there are two people who are reporting into him. One is the admin guy, and other is the office boy. The admin guy makes bills, etc., etc., and the office boy opens, shuts the door, shop, giving water, etc. All these things. Okay. So these are the people. Now, what you need to do, let me just show you, and you have to work on this, and you can make a very simple plan. Do that. Step 1. I want you all to write just these things. Don't get into so many because you don't have the time. Right? 1. What is that you really want to do? You are wanting to do what? increasing sales targets. You wanting to do, maybe it's a combination of headsets. Maybe you want to also do some kind of a, what I will say, call it a low cost, high cost handsets. So a mix, a proper mix of them, product mix, what we call it. All right. So everything under the functional criteria. So don't write even performance here, just write this functional criteria. What is the intent from the functional perspective? And second thing, you have to write intent from the HR perspective. That's it. What is it? Functional intent and HR intent. Just stick to E and G, nothing else. But write A, B, C. Okay. Functional intent and HR intent. After that, step 2, very important. Eligibility. Who are the people who are eligible for this pay plan which you are designing? So you have to list out sales managers, sales people, whoever they are. Now, for their individual performance, how much, what percentage, and for their team performance, if you want to have a team performance. Okay. So you have to write, don't get into quantum. So just write individual performance and team performance. Got it? That is 50% of the base salary, or is it 30% of the base salary? So I said, what amount you want to have to fix as variable pay. Then the step 3, which is very important, criteria. What will be the criteria? Say, for example, you want to have just like a rating scale. Level 1, limit yourself to only 3 levels, not 4 levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3. So you can write, if I have done functional criteria, say A, B, C, D, E, F, less than 50% I have achieved, I will get this much amount, or 0 amount. If I have achieved this more than 50%, but less than, so you create your categorization, okay? And give them the incentive. So that way you are giving it for all the eligible people, you are creating that criteria. The last step is very important, saying that how are you going to pay out? Are you going to pay out monthly, quarterly? And if yes, for what are you paying? Are you paying for retention? Are you paying for motivation? So these are the 2 things you have to write. Is it for motivation or is it for retention? So when you're writing payout, write specially, is it monthly? Is it quarterly? All right. And then is it for motivation or is it retention? Then when you're writing eligibility, that is criteria, stick to only 3 levels, targets. Okay. And create that target, only 3 levels. Then in step 2, you are only writing for your eligibility people, what percentage of variable pay are you keeping? Because you can't have higher percentage of pay for a warehouse guy, or for a, say, for example, a watchman, or a housekeeper. So look at those positions in that exercise which I gave you, and write down what is the percentage of variable pay you want to give. And in step 1, you are clearly writing what is the functional intent, and give them a or a B or a C, and HR intent. Okay. I'm simplifying the entire thing so that this is the first time you must be designing a variable pay plan in order to get a handle over it. So I'm making it much easier. Okay, guys. Before you begin to work in a breakout activity, yes, all of you need, one of you, I think you worked earlier also. So one of you will share the Excel format. Then I want you to make this step 1 intent for this pay performance scheme. Step 2, eligibility for this pay performance. Step 3, criteria. And then step 4, this payout for the performance. Okay. And in step 1, the functional intent, the HR intent. Step 2, list out all the people who are eligible, and then write what percentages you want to give them as a part of their salary, which is variable pay. Okay. Then step 3, then do the criteria in terms of level 1, level 2, and level 3 only, differentiating targets, saying that if they have achieved level 1, which is lower, level 2 little higher, and level 3 a little higher. and if they have achieved what. So list that out and then pay out. Okay. And I will actually close this and go to that case. If in case you don't have that, you can actually take just a snapshot of this as well. And I'm sure Vilma has already sent it. Okay. So what does it mean? That this is a retail store selling a combination of handsets. Now they want to increase their revenue by increasing their sales, right? And how will they do it? By increasing what? More number of people visiting their store. Then they find that there is lack of teamwork. They find that while they are interacting with customers, in the manner in which they are interacting, not very polite, little rude. There are some salespeople who are actually quitting the company, so they have to be actually retained. There is no teamwork there. So these are some of the challenges from the HR perspective. Okay. Now, how many people are there? 20 plus sales manager, plus one warehouse guy, one admin guy, and one office boy. Right. Now you have to decide what percentages of their salary will be a part of their variable pay so that people can stretch and make more money. All right, guys. Who is doing the presentation? Okay, let's start from step 1. Okay. So intent. Increasing sales, good. Customer centricity, and customer satisfaction. Are you going to define some kind of a differentiation between centricity and satisfaction?
Ma'am, customer satisfaction, I was talking more in terms of the customer service guys kind of a thing. And sorry, internal customers and customer centricities. I was thinking more on the perspective of the guys who are serving the customers.
People who are serving the customers.
Yeah.
And the satisfaction is how
And
happy they are. the
overall,
customer.
yeah, how happy the team is because attrition high.
Okay, okay. As long as we are very clear about what it means, the definition, and also then how we are going to evaluate it. Okay,
Correct.
well, sales manager.
So,
if you look at sales manager, yeah, okay, you said 40%, 60%. All right, done. All right, good. 30% of his base salary support. Yeah, this is something which we discussed at that point of time.
yeah,
And
this is my notes.
office
This is
boy
just
also,
for my
office boy also to ensure that there is some kind of a collaboration attitude and doesn't think that, oh, I'm going to get my entire money. All right, great. Okay, good. Now let's look at the criteria. Okay, so you have put L1, L2, L3, L4. All right. Anything lesser than 60%, absolutely no payout. Okay. So anything more than 60, but between 75 and yes. So I'm just trying to bring that sense of, so you will give this only when A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, those things have been, you will look at those things. And criteria, you will be looking at them and then seeing, and then you will give this percentage.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
fine. And 75 to 95% payout, and likewise 95% to 10%. All these criteria of giving certain percentages, you will look at the intent criteria. One.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Right. So this is a good job. Now let's go to the next one. Because that is very important, right? Numbers don't mean anything if you don't have the qualitative descriptors there.
Yeah.
Now, to give you a payout, sales manager typically very good, quarterly or biannual, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And typically what to motivate also? Quarterly sales staff. At best, you can also do a monthly for salespeople, no?
Okay.
Huh?
Okay.
Salespeople, and maybe
discussion about the reconciliation kind of a thing. Does it work? We are a little lost because from the industry that I have come from.
Okay, quarterly also,
Yeah.
because the sales guys are in a very small salaries, right?
Yeah.
So monthly, month on month will actually motivate them.
Okay.
Like for example, a call center employee, he does all the calls, etc. But if you pay him on a monthly, he is more motivated as opposed to a quarterly incentive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then some salespeople are at writing, good salespeople. So maybe you can also add either over and above this incentive, you can give additional bonus of 10% or so at the end of the year if they stay on. Got it? For retention.
For
The
which
retention is
category?
not paid.
For which
Huh?
category you're talking? For which category?
If you notice, there are some people, salespeople who are actually leaving the organization.
Yeah.
So if you want to have retention of your salespeople, so you might say, hey, I want to pay 10% of bonus over and above the incentive to retain them, which will be given at the end of the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Admin, supply and demand, there is quite a huge supply of people, so you don't find that there is any scarcity of this talent, so you don't want to retain them. So admin guy is a small, so why are you, it could be at best because it's not directly related to revenue, at best quarterly or biannual, at best quarterly, not annually. Okay, office boy, you have to give him, this is a very small, right, lowest level. So
Yeah.
typically you can give them a quarterly bonus or a biannual bonus. And most of the time, these quarterly and biannual bonuses are given to people who are indirectly related, not directly related
Yes.
to revenue.
Correct.
Guys who get revenue, because even if you see banks, etc., guys who are in operations and productions, who are making targets, etc., at a lower level, they typically get month on month so that they are motivated to earn more. They are motivated to what? Increase their targets, achieve their targets, and get more revenue. Okay, so this is typically how.
So actually, ma'am, for that office boy, this type of job already, since these are the all blue collar job, so these people are already getting the statutory bonuses.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
plus what I personally suggest, since their attendance is very much necessary,
Regularity.
they can be given
So
the
you can
attendance bonus.
add one. Absolutely. You can add saying that, hey, if you're 100% or, but people also have to take leave. So depending on whatever criteria you want to build in, and then that guy won't be really on leave. He will be regularity, attendance. Very important point. Thank you so much, Dhruv. Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. That's a point to consider when you're actually looking at low level jobs. Okay, I think that's by and large a good, well-designed performance plan, and this will help you in actually designing a performance plan which you will get as a part of your. You have to circulate it to everybody so that they also have this as a part of your assignment. Okay, guys. All right.
Yeah.
So let me quickly do a recap of this and find out. So what are the important, just 2 or 3 points you learned from designing a payout plan, designing a performance plan?
The
Very, very
intent has to be very clear.
Very
Functional
clear.
intent and
Yeah.
HR
Yeah.
intent.
And then
Absolutely.
the intent and then the eligibility for whom you're designing has to be clear, and
True.
what percentage of the base and the incentive you're going to put in.
That's very important. You can't have a high variable pay, but there is no scope for him to perform. Then he'll be
Then what-
demotivated and say, hey, I'm not getting any amount. Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
And also the
And the
when you are
criterias
doing
need to be-
level 1, level 2 criteria, they should not be so tough that it is so difficult to even achieve. Okay.
Yeah.
So every time you design a plan at the end of the year, you're going to review it and see how it has worked for you, and then do some iterations and revise it for the next year. Okay, guys? All clear? All
Yes.
right.
Ma'am, just one question now. So,
Yeah.
a lot of organizations has this recognition schemes more around, employee of the month or employee of the year and stuff like that. So are they also part of this plan, or like they are completely different program altogether?
No. So I'm just coming to that. In fact,
Oh, okay.
so
Sorry.
other than all these variable pay plans, you also have spot awards. You also
Yeah.
have the R&R. Especially, it is very popular in what ITES sector. Every 3 months, you will have an R&R reward. You will give a best employee of the team. Okay, and a list of, but of course, it will be rotated. Not the same guy will be getting it. So all these are also a part of the variable piece. Like sometimes you might just get some merchandise. Sometimes you might just get some tickets. Okay, spot for some suggestion. So all of these things, so organizations essentially, why do they do them? They want to motivate people. They want them to, like, for example, suggestions. Whether they implement them or not, sometimes some organizations, at least to make that as a habit, they will say, hey, definitely, everyone who makes a suggestion will get something. Now you may say, but is it like, is there any goal or something? No, definitely there is. To create some kind of a culture, values, all these are actually what a part of how do these activities support that culture? Even your variable pays. My culture, my value is more of team building, team activity, teamwork. But then I'm only going to give what individual variable pay plans and individual incentives. Will it support my culture and values? You tell me. On one hand, I'm saying I'm trying to collaborate, I'm trying to bring in team culture. But on the other hand, your entire evaluation system is more of an individual contribution, individual incentives. Will it support your culture?
No.
No. So, hey, what is that? Say, for example, I want to really support innovation and creativity. So, what I will do, I'll factor that in my reward system, right? Huh?
Correct.
Huh? I want to have, like he said, absenteeism, regularity. In some organizations, even, for coming up to workplace, dressed very well, they have, because they say, hey, I'm sure, people have to look better. They should come well dressed, because if you just walk into any IT organization, they can come with slippers and shorts, etc. So they will say, hey, no, let's bring in some kind of a work culture where people are dressed, groomed very well.
So based
Agreed?
on this mission or vision statement,
Huh.
vision and mission statement, the incentive philosophy or incentive policy can be in sync and can be derived, I think.
So if you recall my first session, Dhruv, I said whatever you do in your compensation as a strategy, philosophy, pay position, everything, it has to be aligned with your business strategy. Of course, your business strategy is dependent on vision and value systems as well, right?
Oh.
So if there is no alignment, then they will operate on a silo. You can't operate in a silo. In fact, all your HR systems and processes have to be in alignment with your HR strategy. This HR strategy have to be in alignment with your business strategy. Compensation system is a part of your HR strategy as well. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yeah. So when we do actually a lot of this business partnering, we do all this vision, mission, etc. Okay. Now let's come to the next module of saying, I told you that compensation structuring. What do you mean by compensation structuring? That means, hey, how do I structure the elements of my compensation in such a way that the end of the month, to ensure that you are actually taking the advantage of all the tax exemptions. Otherwise, everything will get tax deducted and then you will get such less pay, right? So it starts essentially with what? So typically when I talk about compensation structure, what does it mean? My salary. My salary comprises of what? My fixed component, my reimbursements, my perks, my deferred payments, and also my retirement benefits. You agree? These are the things you get typically, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, guys? Okay. So typically what happens, there's a huge scope. Why do organizations actually give all this perks, and reimbursements, etc.? If I were to give everything as a fixed component, what will happen, Dhruv?
The tax incidence will be huge.
What
Tax
will happen?
Tax incidence will be huge, and
on the
net-
paper, I'm getting a
net-
big salary packet. But
net payout is very less.
net payout will be very less. So to ensure that, the employee also gets maximum, so what they will do is they will give some in benefit, some in reimbursement, so that, so the fixed component is reduced and the tax deduction is not much. Okay. So
Madam,
when
some of the
yeah.
companies,
Mm.
they are, in order to reduce the tax burden of the employee, promoting this voucher payment. Do you support that?
Voucher payment is nothing but voucher means only when you give me a voucher, I'll give you money, right? It's called
Yes.
reimbursement. And what is voucher essentially? That means you are doing something for the benefit of the organization. Why do you get internet allowance? They'll say, hey, give me a receipt because we'll show it as a company expenditure. Are you with me?
Yes.
Today, if you are working from home, you will get some, furniture allowance for office or internet allowance, mobile allowance, all this stuff. Saying that organization will say to their tax guy that all these things, are being used by the employee, not for his benefit, for the benefit he is doing for the as a part of the job. If he has to do, all this has to be given. So the expenditure is shown by the employer so that he also doesn't have to pay much tax. Okay, but you also benefit. Got it? That's why
Yes,
it's called voucher payment or reimbursement. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, fixed component. We talked about it, fixed component. Essentially, it is divided into basic because it's only on the basic. Say, for example, I have a high basic, then everything again will go PF, gratuity, because everything is actually calculated on the basis of your basic. Now, there are certain tax exemptions which are given based on that basic, like an HRA, standard deduction, education, hostel allowance, etc. So these are exemptions given by the income tax. So, in fact, if you notice, gift more than 5,000 you cannot gift, which is actually tax exempted. Anything more than that, it will be tax. There'll be a deduction of the tax. Like for example, for performance bonus, will it be tax exempted or tax deducted?
No,
If you
it
have a
is
performance bonus
tax
of
deducted,
10,000,
tax deducted.
absolutely. At the
Deducted.
source, it will be tax deducted. Okay. Reimbursement means against the voucher. So you don't have any tax. You are showing a voucher and you are getting back the money. All right. Then there are all these non-monetary perks. Okay. Then there are, I'll put on to the other one. You can see better. Then there are these retirement benefits like PF, gratuity, pension, insurance, ESI, etc., which are statutory and mandatory as well, as per the government regulations. It may differ in Dubai, it may differ in other countries. They are country specific. We are getting into compensation budgeting. What is compensation budgeting? What does it mean? What is budgeting, first of all?
Allocate
Huh?
to allocate your
Allocate
resource.
money for your
Yes.
compensation. Okay. Now, when you're doing a compensation budgeting, there is a fundamental principle. Okay. There's a fundamental principle. You have to look at it from three perspectives. I'll just write here. From three perspectives. One is the company perspective. Okay. When you're doing the budgeting from the compensation perspective, so when you're doing that, you have to look at company perspective, saying, hey, how much of profit they want, what is the kind of a market share are they looking from the stakeholders' point of view. You have to look at it from the company's perspective. The second perspective is from the external perspective. What does it mean? Hey, who are my competitors? What is happening with the market? What kind of a market share is there? And how are they competing, etc., etc. Then comes employee perspective. So when I'm talking about employee perspective, especially for compensation budgeting, it's very important. What kind of policies are there? What kind of promises have I made in terms of benefit? What is the kind of a total reward system? So if you say something and if you're not going to give that, what will happen? Tell me, guys. You are saying in your total reward, I'm going to give this benefit, I'm going to do this in order to attract, motivate, retain, and all that stuff. Then, but when it comes to budgeting, you're not keeping the money, you're not factoring in it. Then what will happen? Tell me. Quick. tell me.
Profit will be impacted or will not be able to.
Obviously, your image will be impacted. Like, for example, there was one company where I was doing consulting and, they didn't actually keep any kind of a money for a certain amount of money, which they promised as, increment or whatever. So what they said, oh, we have not earned that money, so we are not able to give it. We haven't made profits. And we will actually set it off as some variable pay. God, there was huge attrition. People were not happy at all. So you have to ensure, first of
The
all, hey, what are
corpus should be there. Corpus should be there.
Absolutely. Some corpus should be there, but corpus will be there only when you budget for that line item, no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So once you have understood all this in terms of, hey, what is this and what kind of an equity issues are there? What kind of a comp ratios? I talked about comp ratios, both from internal perspective and from the market perspective, at an individual, at a positional, at a market perspective, what are the market medians, etc. What kind of pay ranges you want to have, what are the legal and contractual things, all this you have to keep in mind. And then 2 ways, I'll just use the whiteboarder, that will be much better for me. Quickly. So there are 2 ways of looking at budgeting. One is called traditional way of looking at it. What do we do in a traditional method?
Ma'am, that could be like what previously was done.
Exactly, you are dot on. So Nitin, so what was the last year? What did I spend? And then you will then do it an incremental way of looking at everything and you will factor in. There's the other way called the fixed way, which is called ECR. What is the ECR way? Employee cost to
Revenue. Okay. Based on
it's a very important metric.
Wage cost to revenue, basically.
It can also be wage cost to revenue. It can also be your sales to revenue. So what does it indicate? Because employee cost is very, very important. So you want to see what is the what percentage of the revenue is your employee cost. Okay. Why do you want to look at this? Say typically, for an example, in an IT organization, because it is very, very knowledge intensive, etc. It is typically from 30% to 50% also, depending on the kind of. Now I have to know I have to do a benchmarking. I'm in what services? IT services. Okay, depending on the scale and size. So what are my competitors' employee cost to revenue? If I have, what does it mean? Somewhere something I'm doing wrong, right? I'm not automating or I'm doing a high wage. So essentially, employee cost to revenue is also a very important ratio because it has an impact on what? Your
Revenue, profitability.
no, profits. So the CEO from the HR head typically will ask, hey, what is your wage cost? Because every time there is an annual increment, then you will say, okay, now if you're going to increase, if you're going to give 8% increments or 10% increment, then by what percentage again it will increase? Then how are we going to set off that? Because higher the wage cost, lower the profits. Okay. So these are the 2 ways of doing what? Budgeting. Now, when you're doing a ECR and if you're a startup, Seema, what will you do? So if you're a startup, you can always benchmark with your competitors and say, typically what is their wage cost, and from there you can actually take a look at the ratios, and if it is not available, you can go to the annual reports and find out. Okay, so typically when we do a traditional way of the budgeting, then there is a process involved.
But madam, for the traditional also, the ECR can be also incorporated into that.
Absolutely incorporated, because it will give you a sense of where you are. Okay, it will give you a sense of where you are. Say for example, last year your compensation pool means the amount you spend 200 million. Okay. So your step one will be saying that, hey, you'll have to ask the business, you'll have to say if you're head HR saying that by, are we planning an increase of revenue? Obviously, right? Say, for example, this organization is planning an increase of revenue by 25%, then what will happen? Will it come automatically? Or I'll have to hire new people, more people? Quick. I'll have to hire more people, right?
More people.
So therefore, my compensation pool will have to go absolutely by 25%, which will be, now I can make it as my budget can be 250 million. But if I go and say,
Actually, madam, the CEO, from the CEO point of view, even if the revenue growth is predicted or budgeted 25%, they will ask from the CHRO that compensation pool should not exceed at least 15% and so.
yeah,
So
so
that
you will
there is always a
negotiate.
profit.
So
Yeah.
you will negotiate a little, right? You will negotiate. Okay. Absolutely, you will negotiate. Now, having said that, but you will arrive at a figure. So your CEO will say, okay, fine. Next year, what should be your budget? Now, say for example, I have arrived at 250 million. Now, typically, what will you do? You just can't say, sir, I have to, my budget will be 250 million. Your boss will say, hey, but where will you spend? What will you do? So there are certain line items you need to consider. What is that? Like, for example, now this wage code is coming, right? So because say some statutory, so it might increase your cost by 10 million because of some deductions in PF or something. You are going to have a increase of 10 million. Then you are saying, hey, maybe, because I look at when I'm taking new employees, I may have to increase their salaries. So maybe because of the competitiveness, again, I have to increase it by same ad hoc figure, 20 million. So I'm looking at all line items. Again, I have to have a new variable pay plan. I'm looking at pay plans and I felt that last year they're not very effective. So to attract and retain the right kind of people, so I'm saying here I have to increase it by 10 million. I'm just taking figures. So you have to iterate. Now again, I have a supervisory level for which again there are certain practices I need to change. I'm saying again, I want to increase it by 2 million. Okay. Then I'm saying, hey, this year performance hikes. So which will cost me about 8 million. Again, because of internal equity, I have to make some kind of a shift. Maybe it will cost me 1 million. Again, for market corrections, it's going to cost me 4 million. Then again, inflation, etc., it's going to cost me 1 million. Now I have to add up all these line items, which are coming up to 256. But what is my budget? What is my budget?
0.5, 250.
250.
But now I have added up, my line items are coming to 256. What should I do? Will your CEO give 256 then? What do you think you will do? You will again go through all the line items. For example, I have to reduce 6 million. Government regulatory, I don't think there is any chance of reducing this number because I can see that absolutely counting this won't go. Maybe here a little bit, I will say, okay, I will reduce it by maybe 2 million. Okay. Again, here, maybe by 0.5 or maybe 1. So that means 3. Okay. So instead of 8 million, I'll say, okay, 6. Because I'm going to give a lesser increment maybe by 3% or 3.5, etc. So what am I trying to do? I will again iterate. Everything is done through a consultative approach and look at because DA for workers COLA, which is impossible, are already 1 million. What will I reduce? So what I can do at best is only here because these are large line items. So I will try to reduce this and make it come closer to 250 because like going by Dhruv, he is not going to give me 250 also sometimes unless and until I push back and say, no, it's going to be impossible because the market salaries are really gone way high. I may have to bring in some automation. I may have to reduce some number of people. So various things I have to do, but yet but there will be a negotiation here. Still, you'll say, no, 250 is too much. You still have to reduce by 1. So that's how it happened. So this is how quickly a compensation budgeting happens, guys. But yes, then again you will look at, hey, but considering this, where will I be if I have to benchmark? What will be my ECR ratio? Is that still high? Because the CEO will ask me, what's the ECR ratio? And how does it look like when you are comparing it with your competitors? So if it is high, then say, but why is it high? So what is that we have to do? Why can't we build a talent pipeline? Why are we actually then hiring people at a higher cost? So you have to really go into the details of your entire sourcing strategy, right? And because especially in government and all, you can't do much. Only in terms of paying salaries, maybe somewhere you can do some amount of it. All right. So this is how you actually do the compensation budgeting, guys. Okay. So, well, this is what I wanted to convey. We talked about variable pay plans. 2, we talked about compensation structuring. And then we talked about compensation budgeting. So with this, I think we actually have come to the end of the 4th session.